And we are live. Hey guys, welcome in for another weekly check-in. Bi-weekly, I think we're calling these, checking in with you guys twice on Wednesdays and of course on Sundays. And Lord, by the time Sunday rolls around, we have a lot to talk about. I'm Yolanda at Dryer Buzz, and let's see, let me get some names on the screen. How about that? I'm like, wait, where is everything? Let's see. I thought I pushed all the buttons. It says show display names, so I don't know what I did. So maybe
Maybe they're going to pop up in a minute.
I know. That's different. Let's see. Is it because of this? Nope. Or maybe they'll come in. There it goes. Oh, wait, it was that.
There we go.
Okay. It
there.
was that. Okay. All righty. All right. So this is called Leading Women Weekly, where women who are leading, women who are following, every woman that's trying to figure out her place in the universe. This is where we stop, y'all. Take a deep breath. And I look around, I don't have any lemonade. So I'm going to let Angela give us an update on what we talked about on Wednesday. Angela, do we need to pick up on something? Because, I've got some burning topics I want to talk about. And we didn't get a chance to have a pre-conversation, so I'll throw those out. Plus, we do have a guest coming on at 2 p.m., Triana Arnold James, and she's actually out at a protest. So we're going to see how that's going to go. Yes. So if you would tell everybody what we talked about last week, and I'll grab me a glass of lemonade.
Yeah, so we had a great conversation on Wednesday with an actress, and I cannot think of her name. I'm going to have to ask Yolanda what her name is. It just went out of my mind. Rashida Denise.
Rashida Can Act is her.
Yes.
What's her Instagram?
Rashida Denise. I knew it was Denise was in there. So sorry, Rashida, because it was such a good conversation. Very, I appreciate that she was just really direct and open about her experience as a working actor in Chicago. She also worked with a casting agent, and so to talk about sort of the challenges around casting and how there was this big sort of Black Lives Matter response.
Right.
And then all these invitations, all these calls for auditions go out for Black actors. And I think the thing that was just so shocking, and Yolanda, you got right into it, is that she's like, well, who knows if next year, right, in 6 months, if they'll still be these jobs.
We asked her about the work, and if this was going to be something, because we're talking about going forward. And she said that, the way these things are coming in, and I think because it's reactionary as opposed to proactive, that, everybody's attitude is, jump on it right away because we don't know how long it's going to last and what's going to change. And she actually came from a stage and theater perspective, as well as, and that's what we got into a real good conversation, because you and I both love stage and theater.
Yes.
And for me, stage, whether it's comedy or theater, those are literally like the only two places where this influence of being politically correct or reimagining or, just changing up history hasn't happened yet. You still can get a real good, honest conversation from all different historical perspectives. It's the one place that the language hasn't totally changed, that the history of it hasn't totally changed, and there's still people who are willing to write those amazing voices, And I know for me, I've learned a lot of what I know from sitting in that audience on the stage. Let me also say, as everybody's coming on, guys, we are live on Facebook Watch as well as YouTube. So both of those, you can put down your phone and go and get on your couch or in your recliner and watch on television. And that's why we have perfectly formatted the show that we have, so that you can lean back and still watch and comment and engage with us. Your comments, please, we can't see as you come in to watch, but if you do comment, let us know you're there. We can see those, and we can also add you to the broadcast. Your comments on the broadcast, and on Sundays we've had some really good engagement. So we just want to let you guys know that that's pretty much how this works. We are you see us right there in front of you, but we are somewhere broadcasting, and I can't open up another device to keep up. So just say hello, and even a hello, we're gonna add you right down there
That's
to
it.
the bottom of the screen. And if you want to catch more episodes, this does become an amazing podcast. You can go to leadingwomenweekly.com. Angela and I have decided, what about a year ago, to bring it into a broadcast format and then roll it into a podcast. Because one, we have so much to say, and two, we're trying to get used to you guys looking at us. So
Exactly.
that's different from the arenas that we've been in. Both of us kind of in the background, and now coming to the foreground. So Angela, as I was coming on, one of the things over the last couple of days, you and I both, being caregivers and deal with grief and all those kind of things. I feel a nice new wave. Had a really good wave this week. One, because I pushed myself to go out,
Mm-hmm.
check out a coffee shop, and I'm hoping I did that okay. Wasn't in
Right.
a massive crowds or anything like that. It was, but when I went, I got such a great sense of community.
Mm-hmm.
Met up with some amazing women. One who was en route to Atlanta for the weekend for her birthday. She was a longtime follower, a new soap customer, and she didn't want me to ship her product. She wanted to come and get them for her birthday. And I told her to meet me at this coffee shop. And while I was there, I met TG Bailey, who is also a follower
Yes.
on Facebook. And the three of us, got to have an amazing conversation, 6 feet apart, mind
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
And also there was another writer, male writer, in the white male writer, and that I'm saying that because I know that's where our conversation is probably going to go.
Yeah. Yeah.
In the coffee shop, and over here in us, we all talked about the time that we have spent writing about Atlanta, and sharing some things. One person, TZ Beatty, coming from having worked with one or two of our mayors, I believe, on the publicity side, or I think, and some of the offices in city government, and then also the airport. And then this gentleman, I think he was actually there to do a story on the coffee shop while they are launching and trying to thrive in during COVID and so forth.
Yeah.
So a pretty amazing week, I'm gonna say. I'm ending a great week and hopefully carrying it over into the next week. What about yourself?
Well, that's great. First, let me just say I think that's exciting. And I heard something that I thought made a lot of sense of, like, as people are venturing out, deciding what to do.
Mm-hmm.
And they said, think of it like you have an exposure budget, right? That, that you've got, okay.
Yeah.
So to be to maintain low risk, I can only have so much exposure, right? So think about, well, how do you want to spend that
Ooh, I
exposure
like
budget,
that.
right? So if you
Mm-hmm.
want to go and you want to meet some people, right, it's going to cost you a lot more exposure if you're in a trapped space with them versus being in a space where you can distance, right? Versus being outside, mask, no mask, all these things. And so you look and say, okay, so you're looking at your week, like, how am I going to spend that exposure budget? Not to say that, even a casual exposure might
Mm-hmm.
cause you to get sick, but the risk is very low. And that way it gives you
Right.
something to sort of base those decisions on, because up to this point it's been very hard to say, well, what am I supposed to do? How am I supposed to do it? But there is what you're talking about, connecting, being in face to
Mm-hmm.
face, getting re-energized. We need that and not to defend the stupid white people who were banging on the state house for haircuts. But there is something to say, I need to be connected to other people, that I think
Mm-hmm.
everybody has felt through this. And hopefully we will come out the other side really valuing, like you say, sitting in a coffee shop with strangers
Mm-hmm.
and just being in the energy and presence of other people. So I think that's great. It sounds like you executed your exposure budget very well and got a lot of benefit for
Right.
it. And I think, again,
Right.
and also I think that helps your health. So I mean, that's what's
Mm-hmm.
going on. My
Yeah.
week
And
was
I have to. Oh,
yeah,
sorry.
go
Go
ahead.
ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, I like how you put that, because you also have to be mindful as to where you have been.
Mm-hmm.
If over the next week or two, you got to think of what was that odd one-off thing that I did.
Mm-hmm.
Because we are essentially putting ourselves at risk, and we know that there are people who are doing everything they can to limit that risk until we
Mm-hmm.
know more about how we need to open back up. And I thought they did a great job of limiting the risk. We did distance ourselves
Mm-hmm.
while we were there, but you do have to keep that not in the back of your mind, but in the forefront.
Mm-hmm.
Because if I know, I put if well, you do put yourself at risk going out,
Well, I
okay.
mean,
But it's like
to get
I
me,
only went to the coffee shop.
yeah,
I can count on one hand how many people were in
yeah,
there,
yeah.
not hundreds and so forth.
Mm.
So I like that. And then too, I want to
Yeah.
go again. So.
No, there you go. And that's how you calculate it, right? Because
Mhm.
again, and we do this all the time with other things, right? We know that
Mhm.
there's a risk every time we get in a car that we can be in a car wreck. We know that there's a risk every time we get on a plane that there can be a plane crash. But we calculate those risks. We do things to mitigate those risks, right? So that
Mhm.
we don't just
Mhm.
stay home all the time. I'll never forget. This is such a dumb story, but maybe it's because that well, I mean, it's not dumb. Someone dies in the story, but you know,
Oh wow.
but
Story time.
yeah, but yeah, I think about my sister who's been sick for so long, and
Mhm.
and we're and she's it's very difficult for her to go out, and there's also this element of feeling like safer at home. But there was a story about
Mhm.
Florida and Florida man, right? And if a guy in Florida who was killed when a sinkhole opened up under his bedroom and just sucked him down into the ground, and
Mhm.
he died.
Mhm.
And I thought, even if you
I
just
remember.
never leave your bed, the ground could open up under you
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
swallow you. And so
Exactly.
there is a point where you have to start saying there is no truly safe place. Now, say all
There
that to
isn't.
say
Mm-mm.
I'm still not going anywhere. I'm still not, it's not, and it's not for, and
Right.
it's not because I'm afraid, right? Although I have all my nightmares, like, and I have regular nightmares of being out and like, oh my God, I forgot my mask, or oh my God, I'm too close to this person, right? So it's clearly in my mind. I just, I'm in a position where I can't leave
Mhm.
my sister unattended. And so
Mhm.
my problem is I need someone in my house, and that's the highest risk situation that you can be in. And so
Mhm.
it's sort of how do I calculate, how do I figure out how to do that? And then my issue becomes, is there anything that's worth taking that risk? Right? Is to
Right.
say,
Right.
so I'm like, okay, yeah, I'd love to go
Mhm.
sit out at a coffee shop, right? Go sit
Mhm.
outside at a patio and have a coffee. But I'm like, I'm going to bring somebody to do that. I have to bring somebody into my house. And,
Mhm.
and it's like, so is it worth the risk? So for me, it's a different calculation. But I also know that
Mhm.
I can't wait till there's a vaccine to ever go out anywhere, right?
Right.
So
Right. Right.
and again, we're working with doctors. We're trying to figure out what to do. So,
When.
but
Mhm.
but at least I have a nice space at my house that I can socially distance. I'm able to have a social distance conversation with my neighbors. Certain family members can come by. I have a little back
Mhm.
back porch area. It's where I broadcast from, right?
Right.
I've got at least 12 feet of space, so people can be distanced. I've
Mhm.
only one person at a time has come to visit, right? So at least I'm not without human contact. So I don't want to indicate that I've like had no him other than my sister,
That's
right?
that's it. Yeah.
But even that I really realize is that when one of my brothers comes by,
Mhm.
or I just get a chance to talk to one of
Mhm.
the neighbors, I feel so much better. I'm an extrovert. I like
Mhm.
people. I get energized by being around people. So I think it's really,
Mhm.
anybody that can figure out, again, being safe. It's not to say that
Yeah.
they're
Yeah.
not to say that people that no one is getting sick from that setup, but just everything that I'm reading. And let me tell you, because I am trying to figure this out, and because nobody seems to be figuring it out the end that I'm on, right? Which is when you need to have someone in your home, which would be for people who need. I mean, the closest thing that I'm looking at is like daycare settings, right? Like, what are the CDC recommendations for daycare? Um, uh, because where you have, um, where you have to have someone who is hands on like you think about children, you have to have someone hands-on, right? But there's no one
Right.
talking about home health care and people who have someone in their home. There's nothing being spoken about that. So
Mm.
I do read a lot and study up a lot on this. And don't go into a crowded club, a bar, this thing where or you end up with people that are getting sick. Don't go to a party at somebody's house and be inside for
Mm-hmm.
any 10 minutes. Okay, guys, 10 minutes is the max. And so, there's a story about 30 members of one family now have COVID
Yeah, from a
from a
birthday party,
party.
right?
Yeah.
And then there was
And
one today where a restaurant, like 85 cases from a restaurant. But here's
oh,
what
I
we
saw that one in
don't
Michigan.
hear.
Yeah.
Yeah, here's my question was, are we at a point, we know that there's always going to be those who become critically ill from anything, any
Right.
exposure to anything. What When I hear 85 cases, okay, does that mean that 85 people fell critically ill,
Right.
or if it was it just like if the flu went through, or cold, or
Right.
germs, in
Right.
that level? So it's like, don't just tell me 85 people, because I mean, we have to, and I don't care what I sound like, but we have to open back up. We have, we just have to. But then when you see, other countries, something in America is not doing right,
Mm-hmm.
because there are other countries that are, where they completely shut down, they're completely open back up. But then they have mechanisms and things in place that, we don't. We're not walking through sanitization hubs or
Right.
doorways.
Right.
We're not smelling disinfectant everywhere. So
Right.
there are some things that we're not doing. But again, it's like, when you tell me, okay, 85 people, because if you tell me 85 people fell critically ill,
Right.
then I'm like, okay, shut it all back down.
Right.
But if 85 people had a fever for a day, or
Mm-hmm.
fatigue for a day, or a cold, or,
Right.
not 85 people ended up in the ICU on ventilators.
Yeah.
So we haven't been given enough information as to what is that and how is that. And yeah, if
Yeah.
you are comorbid, or if you are caregiving, or if you are in any of those higher risk things, yeah, don't go out to the restaurants. Don't go out. And even when we went to the coffee shop, it was probably three or four. Ended up being like three of us, no, four of us, just kind of cross talking. It wasn't a huge space.
Right.
It's really not a huge space. It's just one of those, like they used to call the shotgun
Right.
retail spaces, where you can literally see from the front straight to the back. It was one of those, and
Mm-hmm.
and we each were like at our own little table, just cross talking. And even then, there were several Karens who came in defiantly. I'm not going to wear
Mm.
masks. I'm coming in this coffee shop. And I don't know if anything else to call them, because they try to make eye contact with you as if I'm defying. They literally
Right.
like,
They want
I
to.
am defying you.
It's interesting.
We want you to know.
No shame.
When one, you don't even have to walk. They have it where you don't even, if you do you. They have an entrance, a way that if you want to just go straight down and go right to the counter, get your stuff and go out. But to walk through the restaurant, like, I
Mm-hmm.
need you to see me, and I'm like, whatever, I'm like, you go ahead, walk on through. I'm gonna put my mask on,
Yep.
but I don't. And let me tell you, and I understand that nothing in America came without protest. So I understand. I understand if they were doing it to say, give me the date. Like I just asked. I just asked for, well, if you're gonna say 85 people, ended up with COVID-19, at what stage, at what level, I don't even hear them asking for any kind of data from it. It's like, no, I just don't want to have something at the same time as these other people. And so their argument is so mute. I woke up this day today, I posted, I said, I can't wait till they decide to have like sit-ins.
Yeah. Well,
I
yeah, I
think
saw
that's just
that,
gonna be
and
like so
just
awesome. I like
yeah.
the day that they say we're gonna have a sit-in. That's gonna be my best laugh ever.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like I
Well,
can't wait.
but I
Go
do
ahead.
think, yeah, and then we can wrap this and move on because I could talk about this for 2 hours for sure. But it's to
I do
say,
want to talk about nightmares. You did mention nightmares, and a number of people are asking about how to deal with
yeah.
nightmares from this.
Yeah.
So.
to just to wrap up your thing about data, we really don't have data. And so this is where, had the messaging been delivered correctly from day one, what we would have been told is, we just don't know. It's new, novel coronavirus. It's new. So here's the things that you can do to protect yourself and to protect other people. But apparently protecting other people, though, means nothing in this country. We have no, I saw somebody say we should have never said that you wear a mask to protect other people. We shouldn't have said you were, because people won't do it, right? They don't care about anybody else. There's something to that. But if we said, we don't know, here's what we have to do. We know that if people are not in contact with one another, it can't spread. So the quickest thing we can do is shut everything down, have everybody go home, make sure they're provided for, and let's see if we can get it beaten back until we can figure out what does work, what is happening, how is it affecting people. We still just don't know, and we're not getting the clear data, and we're not doing even the basic things that other countries are doing, like contact tracing, which is to say, the vast majority of cases, nobody knows how they got them, right? So if you don't know how people are catching it, how can people protect themselves, right? So this is what I keep hoping, and every day, or every couple of days, there's a little bit more research that's been done that I think is going to help me to figure out what kind of protection do we need, how long, how do we do it, to have somebody in the house. And I will say this, and I kudos to the ACLU. I'll tip my little invisible hat. They had a post and an article yesterday that I retweeted about the fact that nothing is being done. There's no effort at all to protect people in nursing homes, long-term care homes, and the disabled. And that they presented this. They said this is also a human rights violation. We are basically just chucking the most vulnerable people in this country. Say, well, okay, they're going to get it. That's it. And
because the nursing homes are in total contradiction to how they announced that this thing was even coming into the country, because these were people who obviously hadn't traveled. They obviously weren't exposed to outside, with the exception of family visiting and staff, and the staff wasn't traveling. So when we saw such critical numbers in our nursing care, it was contradictory to, this thing came in from China or something like that. No, this thing has been there. Previous administrations have been working, keeping it at bay. Something happened, as within every, and this is the thing, is like it became such a personal Trump thing, but every president, and the changeover from every president, there is one thing that truly gets out of hand. Unfortunately for Trump, even having been in office for 3 years, that this is how he's going to leave office with this thing. But it's when you ignore something that everybody's telling you this is going to happen, and as the president of the United States, you've got to keep an eye on this. You've got to keep these numbers down. And I mean, and it went around the world. So I think because we have such a narcissist in the White House, he made it all about him, as opposed to this being something that the entire globe is addressing. That's the thing about a narcissist. Like, you're trying to tell this is happening to everybody, but only thing you're concerned about is how you look.
It's me. Yeah. This is making me look bad.
Then again, you're making me look bad. But you try to tell them, well, you can look good if you just do what everybody else is doing.
You could be the hero of the world.
But then you're the narcissist. Yeah. So you think what everybody else is doing is wrong.
Yeah.
But yet you don't have any alternative thing to do. So do what everybody else is doing, and then you'll see the decline that everybody else is seeing. And now to hear that, Americans are gonna be banned from other countries because, we have the leadership that we do. I can't wait we get new leadership, because I wasn't expecting to spend 2021 here.
No, exactly.
I need to get out.
Exactly. We need to be able to get out. And like literally, if 80% of people wear masks, we could all go out. I mean, this is crazy. So, but I'm hoping, again, as we get more data, and I don't know how we move away from having wearing a mask be a political statement. That's the dumbest thing. That's like saying, I'm trying to find an equivalent to, well, but there's always been seatbelts. People fought seatbelts. They didn't want to wear seatbelts.
Seatbelts, yeah. Yeah.
I don't want to get
Yeah.
anti-vaxxers mad at me, but there's a lot of, the whole vaccine thing.
Mm-hmm.
There are people who very, very much, but particularly this thing of saying everything prior to this was not made political, right? It wasn't that, oh, I'm a
Right.
Republican or I'm a Democrat. It was that this is my belief
Mm-hmm.
system. But this is basically like, oh, this is how I'm showing what party I belong to.
Allegiance. Yeah.
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 So
Yeah.
anyway, I know that yeah, so we're going to talk about nightmares, and actually one of the I don't know when we're looping in our guest, but I did many
I'm
years
watching for them. They're
of
expected around 2,
studying
right at 2. So
dreams.
we'll watch.
Something I
Mm-hmm.
used to do for people was dream analysis, and
Right.
not like an intuitive reading, right? Although I can do that too,
Mm-hmm.
but actually to do a psychological dream analysis, because I've always had very vivid
Mm-hmm.
dreams from the time I was a very small child. I can remember dreams from when I was 7 years old. They were that vivid
Mm.
and stayed with me, and I had horrible nightmares. And so when I got to be grown, I decided I got to figure out something to do about these nightmares. And so I found a book
Mm-hmm.
called Unlocking the Power of Your 24-Hour Mind. I don't know if this book is even still around. And basically it was a psychological approach to analyzing your dreams. And if you can figure out what the message is, what your and whatever you want to say this is, right? Your
Mm-hmm.
unconscious mind. There are people who feel like they're getting messages from God or from another dimension or whatever, right? But the brain the dream mind speaks in symbols, right? And you just have to figure out what your
Mm-hmm.
symbols are, right? And what I have found is that when I start getting into a space with nightmares, if I just take and ask myself about 5 questions about that dream or that series of
Mm-hmm.
dreams, I can figure out
Mm-hmm.
what the unexpressed emotion is, then I don't have those dreams anymore. So it's nightmares are actually from that is like, and truly it's just like a psychological approach. You can, if you're having problems with nightmares, and a lot of people are, right? um,
Mm-hmm.
is to say, let me break it down, because the dream mind has no words, right? It doesn't have language. It comes to my right side, from the right side of the
Mm.
brain. The words are on the left side. So it's trying, your dream mind is trying to tell a story. And it's like, basically it's a filmmaker. Your dream mind is a filmmaker, and it's trying to tell you a story, but it can't put it into words, so it can only put it into pictures. Now you may have dialogue, you may have talking. Like, I mean, I dream full movies, I always laugh. It's funny. I woke up this morning thinking, I've never been a person who can write fiction, but I have like full movie dreams, right? I'm like, now why can I not
Mm.
figure out how to write down some of these I was gonna say these damn dreams that are like full
Mm-hmm.
movies, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they have full movie plots. So anyway, problem for another day. But it's so, but really, it's the two sides of our brain trying to figure out messaging. So I don't. So you do you want me to give you the questions with the dream analysis questions? They're easy.
Yes.
So basically, what you want to do is, as soon as you can, write down as much of the dream. If you can write it down, that's great. Or put it in a
Yeah.
voice memo.
Yeah.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
and then you go back and and when you're awake, you ask yourself, what is the overall emotion of this dream? What was the overall feeling of this dream? Now, you may have had a series of feelings in the dream. You can jot all those down. But like, usually there's going to be something that, like, when you woke up, I woke up and I was terrified. I woke up and I was angry. I woke up and I was crying. I was sad, right? Or I woke up and I was happy. If it's happy,
Mm-hmm.
you can analyze those dreams too. But it's like, I woke up and I felt, and that's the words that the brain's trying to get you to say, right? And write it down or
Oh.
talk it out, right? So that's the word that the brain is like, I'm feeling this emotion and I don't have a word to tell you, you know. So inner Angela doesn't have a word to tell me because it doesn't have words. So it's going to send me pictures to say, this is what you're feeling. This is what you're feeling. Oh my gosh, I'm feeling so nervous. I'm feeling scared. I'm feeling
Mm-hmm.
trapped. I'm
Mm-hmm.
feeling whatever, right? So then you say, well, is there any place in my, so write the dream down, what is the overall emotion of the dream? And then the sub one would be other emotions. 3, does this feel like anything I'm feeling right now in my waking life? Does this remind me of a
Mm-hmm.
feeling that I'm having? And a lot of times, you know
That
exactly what
I
it
was going
is.
to ask you that. I was going to
That's
ask you
it.
because my question is: are we ever in total contradiction of something that we dream, or is it always? Must a dream always relate to something
Yeah.
going on with us?
Yeah, I think they do. Now there are people
Mm-hmm.
who feel like they have prophetic dreams, and I'm not. I think that dreams are a
Mm.
pretty remarkable thing, and I'm not going to. There are people who go into dream state and feel like they communicate. Now maybe that's something different, but for the most part, I'm talking about the sort of general dreams that people have, that human beings have.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're probably relating to something that's happening, and it is the
Mm-hmm.
mind trying to process. So this is one philosophy, is the mind is trying to process your emotions. So there's a lot going on now because people are complaining about being sleep deprived. That sleep is
Mm-hmm.
so important because it's like the way that your brain washes itself, right? And so we know that there's actually a chemical process that goes through that kind of degunks the brain, and if your brain's not
Mm.
degunked, it sets you up to be at greater risk for Alzheimer's and dementia. So sleep is really, like, on a physical level, the brain needs to be asleep. But also, people who have studied, psychologists and doctors who've studied dreams, if you don't dream, you go crazy. So there are a lot of people who say, I don't dream. You just don't remember your dreams, because if a human being doesn't dream, they will start to have hallucinations in their waking life. And there have been, that's solid science now done from studies. So one of the things that,
Wow.
one of the areas of research came out of this idea of the DTs, the there's a delirium tremors that alcoholics would have when they would
Mm-hmm.
detox from alcohol, and they would start to, they would shake and they would have hallucinations, right? We
Mm-hmm.
don't see that much now, because if someone gets to that point and they're detoxing from alcohol, they're usually going to be in a facility and they receive medication, right? But I had, like, my
Mm-hmm.
great grandfather who was an alcoholic, and he famously he was trying to get sober, and he grabbed a knife and threatened the family, and as a result, my
Mm.
grandfather would never touch alcohol. And so in my mom's household, it was a teetotaler clean household. They could not, my grandpa died at 97 and
Mm-hmm.
never ever would wanted to even look at alcohol because of what his father went through, right? But in
Mm-hmm.
getting clean, right, it was a razor blade. He took the razor and came after the family, right, because he was in a
Mm.
delusion. Well, this is the DTs, and you know what? And you watch these old cowboy movies. There's always going to be a guy in the DTs.
Mm-hmm.
There's going to be an episode where there's a guy in the DTs, right? Well, what they have realized is that the DTs are basically dreams, unprocessed dreams. Because when a person is under the influence of alcohol, and it's the same thing that happens with Ambien and other sleep drugs, if you don't go into that deep sleep to allow yourself to dream, that dream content will process out. So a lot of people talk about when they quit drinking, or they go off of some sort of um, uh, medication that to help them sleep, that they'll have these horrible dreams, or they have very vivid dreams. It's like you can get a dream backload, right? Get a backlog of dreams
Wow.
that's trying to process. So the being able to analyze your dreams helps you to get rid of, to clear out unprocessed emotion. I think dreams are really very, very, a very nice, a very easy way to sort of get to your own issues. I think you can use dreams creatively. I use dreams. I try to, what they call a dream suggestion, is that, before I go to sleep, I'm like, I'd like to have a dream that will help me figure out what to do about, right? To use my dream mind to come up with a
Mm-hmm.
solution for a problem in my life, right? Or if I'm writing, I'd like to have a dream that's going to help me figure out how to express this idea, right? And
Mm-hmm.
I've very rarely had a dream where it's just like da da, but letting my mind do
What
its
about
work.
when as a person and you wake up and you remember the dream so vividly right then, but
Yeah,
then it starts to like fade away,
yeah,
like you're getting further and further away from it.
yeah. And this is, again, the point of this. If you're looking at it just as a mechanical function, dreams as a mechanical function, it's not supposed to
Mm-hmm.
linger. It's supposed to let it. It's clearing it out. And in fact, if the emotion's fully cleared, you may not
Oh.
remember anything at all. But you can capture it. That's why you got to write it down, because it fades and fades and fades. And I don't care how much you think, I'm going to remember this dream. I'm going to remember this dream. It's going to be gone.
Mm-hmm.
Oftentimes, by the time you get up and walk away from your bed, right? And it's, you're like, it's
Mm-hmm.
here. And then, then it will be gone. So this way, the voice memo on your phone is your friend, right? If you don't want to jot it down, even if you're just jotting down the highlights of that dream, because you
Mm-hmm.
won't, it will be very, very difficult to remember a dream, even when you're trying
To
to remember.
remember it. Wow.
But you can still, even on a very vague memory of a dream, you can still ask yourself these questions. What was the overall feeling of the dream? Because then a lot of times what happens, you may not remember the details, but you remember the feeling,
Mm-hmm.
right? Have I felt this am I feeling this now? Have I ever felt that before? Right. Then the third, so that was, I think it was, write the dream down. uh, what is the overall feeling of the dream? Have I felt that before? Then you want to go through what you can remember of the dream and explain each piece of the dream as though to a person, as though they don't know, like they've never ever heard of it, like they're from another planet and they don't know. So I could be like, so
Mm-hmm.
my dream started and I was sitting with a cup of coffee. So then if I was analyzing your dream, I'd say, well, what's a cup of coffee? I don't know what that is, right? And so, and like you got to say, what is every, because this is a symbol in my dream, right? What is this cup of coffee? Maybe it doesn't
Mm-hmm.
symbolize anything, but when you start to explain what in your mind this cup of coffee is, right? Like, oh, I love
Mm-hmm.
coffee. Coffee is the thing that stimulates my mind. It makes me feel ready to face the day. There may be somebody who's like, oh, I hate coffee. Like a friend of mine told me she had a dream that she and I were out. She's like, I had this weird dream and you and I were out having coffees and cinnamon roll. And she says, I hate cinnamon rolls. She says, I don't know why would be eating a cinnamon roll. Ha ha ha. Right. So I was like, good, more cinnamon rolls for me because I love cinnamon rolls. Right. So she's having this dream that we're out and she's eating something she doesn't like. Right. If I was having that dream, I'd be like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, this is such a great dream and I'm eating cinnamon rolls. But she's like, so right there, the fact that the cinnamon roll is something that she doesn't like is an indication that it's probably a symbol of something, right? Like, what are you eating? What is it that you're taking in, right? Symbolically, that you don't like, that you're surprised that you're doing it. Like, why am I doing this? I don't like this, right? Why would I be doing this? Then you go back to that first thing. Does this feel like anything? Does this sound like anything that's going on in my waking life or that
Mm-hmm.
has ever happened to me? And so you can break down your own dream symbols. So think about your dog, for example, right? I don't have a dog, right? I haven't had a dog since I was 14 years old. I think was the last time we had a dog. If I dream about a
Mm-hmm.
dog, it's going to be a different meaning for me than if you dream about a dog and you're a dog owner, right? Did you dream about your dog? Did you dream about another dog, right? There are people who are terrified of dogs, right? If they have a dream about a dog, then they're going to be like, oh, it's about being afraid and terrified. There are people who their dog was their best friend. They're dreaming about a dog. It's like, I was dreaming about my best friend. The dog does not necessarily inherently mean anything. Now, again, there are people
The
that,
thing,
and
right?
now if you're playing the lottery and using your dream book, I'm not using that. I'm talking about a whole nother category, right? If you go,
Mm-hmm.
right? If you're playing the numbers and you got your dream book, I'm not going to fight your dream book, right? But what I'm saying is that
Mm-hmm.
for individuals, now culturally, dogs may stand for something, right? But for you as an individual, so that a lot of times, if you can just say what were the feelings and what were the main things in the dream, right? So as it's fading away, what are you remembering? Like I had a dream this morning that was, I was in a church I used to go to, and then it turned into a graduation ceremony, and then it became I was transported back in time into like colonial era, and there were, I was part of a rebel group and there was another group coming after us, so I can go back and think, okay, did I watch a movie? A lot of times it's like, what did I watch on television? Did I see a movie?
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
I dream a lot about other people with other people's movie symbols. Now, what did that make me think of? Right. What do I think of when I think about that
Mm-hmm.
church? What did I think about in the graduation ceremony? It was a lot of people were going to come into the room and sit side by side. And I'm going, oh, I don't know that we should all be sitting this close. And my mom was in this
And
dream. And I'm like,
there
oh,
comes
it's not
there
safe.
comes your
Here
worry.
comes my
Yeah.
worry about and and my mom and my family was there because this is where it was a church we went to when I was young, right? So as my family, and it was a place that we were together, and it felt like a safe space. And then suddenly, it's not a safe space, even though. I'm like, oh, graduation. This is I love graduations, right? That's one of the things that I'm moved by anybody's graduation, right? So it's so for me, those symbols though, I was like, okay, when I woke up, I'm like, yep, I'm still trying to figure out, how do I go out? How do I have someone in my safe space? See, all of this, everything in this dream was about me being in a space and others coming into my safe space and making it unsafe for me and my family, right? That's the thing that I'm trying to work out. And I didn't work it out in this dream that I'm aware of, but but all the craziness, it's like I'm going to have 15 crazy things happen. When I peel back behind it and I talk it, especially if I can talk it out or write it down, then I start immediately. I'm like, oh, I'm thinking about how do I have a caregiver in my house? And I'm like, our brains are wonderful. What wonderful things we have that my brain will tell me all of that story just because I'm trying to figure out how to have somebody come into my house, and entertains me so much, right? And I just am trying to keep it from scaring me, right? And keeping it from freaking me out, right? And and so and this is where then the dream's going, and it takes a sharp turn. So anyway, I tell you what, anybody that is in the sound of my voice and ever wants to know more about dream analysis, hit me up on Facebook or Twitter, and I'll give you the book. I'll give you the name of the book, and I'll list the questions. And it's amazing how that will
it's a whole conversation, because a couple of things that I do just to kind of see where people are. Like when I'm up, and I'm usually up late because I operate on the other side of things. And you can just literally like ask who's up and why. And I'm always amazed at how many people pour into it like instantly. You'd be surprised. People are always asking, what to do on social media. Ask a question.
Yeah.
People will answer. I asked a simple question yesterday about the brownie. I literally said I never met a person who really loves the edge of the brownie. And all of a sudden, all these people who love the edge of the brownie came out of nowhere. And I noticed instantly, like, wait, y'all all have something in common. You being one. I'm like, and I'm looking at everybody, first of all, immediately chimed in. Oh, no, that's me. I love the edge of the brownie. And I'm looking and I'm like, oh, y'all, everybody that chimed in, they all had, you guys all had something in common. And one, that is voicing your opinion, not waiting to be heard. But, and I mean, it was so interesting. And one guy in particular, I remember going to his profile because it brought him out of the woodwork. I'm like, who is this? It absolutely brought him out of the woodwork. And Triana is trying to dial in.
All right.
Desiree Lee, D. Inspires of AIB Nation has come on. She just had an amazing virtual conference this week. Not even a conference. I'm trying to figure out what would I call it, but she had her authors event. So a lot of the authors got together and had a virtual event this week. So shout out to her, and thank you so much for watching, guys. This is our Sunday edition of Leading Women Weekly. And I'm trying not to stay on my other device because I know my head is down when I'm doing that, but trying to get Triana on. I know she is actually out of the protest. She's probably trying to find a good connection so she can come on. So since she is not here, and I didn't really want to get into other topics until after, but I'm going to go ahead and bring one. Watching the Toni Morrison special. I don't know. I saw the ad on Facebook for it, and actually, as soon as I say that, here comes Rihanna. So we're gonna go to her. So remind me. I want to talk about that.
No, absolutely.
That, and I also want to talk about, did America have triplets? Think about this, guys. When we talk about our movements and so forth, and there is Triana Arnold James. Let's see if we can get her to a sound check as we bring her on. Hello, lady.
Hello, can y'all
Awesome.
hear me okay?
Okay, so got sound?
Yep.
Good.
We can hear you great. All right. So Triana Arnold James, y'all, is actually out at some of the protests, and she's been out early. She's been at a number of them, and she and I got a chance to talk just a little bit earlier as to what we want from this conversation. There's a number of things I want from this conversation, and let me just also say that she does happen to be running for office. Not only does she nearly missed by a small margin, but here in Georgia, they put her in a runoff. So we want to have her tell us about that. But she's on today because she has been at, and all of us, for those of you watching around the country, all of us are outside of Atlanta. And she's been at a number of protests. And I want her to tell us what it's been like on the ground because I haven't been able to be out. Angela hasn't been able to be out. But we've been following Triana step by step, girl. So where are you today?
I am in Carrollton, Georgia today, Carroll County.
Wow.
Yes, I'm
Mm-hmm.
downtown. I'm actually in the back of all of the protesters because I didn't want to be in the way. And then when people see me, hey Triana, how you doing, and things like that. So I was trying to, make sure that that I'm out of the way for right now. But yes, it's
Okay.
a protest going on in Carrollton, Georgia, and the reason why I was asked to come down because last week they have a standing protest every Sunday, and last week some of the
Wow.
protesters got hurt, and so I invited the ACLU, the legal watchers, to come out with the protesters today. So I just, of course, I came out to stand in solidarity with them, but also to make sure that, everybody is staying safe and, not getting hurt. Because it's, a young man almost drove his car into the protesters last week, and some of the protesters got scratched up. No one died, no one got badly hurt, but it was still scary,
Mm-hmm.
you know. And so someone
Mm-hmm.
said, Triana, we know you're running for office, but you have a bigger platform, and if you can help us
Yeah.
out, that would be great. So that's why
Mm-hmm.
I'm out here today.
Now this is a stand. You said a standing protest. So is Black Lives Matter?
Yes, yes. Every
Okay.
Sunday, from 2 to
Wow.
4, they come on, and they looks like it has a pretty good crowd today. And I think because of the, what happened last week, and more people becoming
Mm-hmm.
aware of what happened, then more people are coming out here to stand in solidarity with the protesters and say, Black Lives Matter.
Mm-hmm. And to let everybody know, you said Carrollton it's actually about maybe 45 minutes
Oh,
from downtown Atlanta, and it's actually probably what 20 miles from Alabama.
yeah.
So not necessarily one of the
17
bigger
to be
cities, but
exact.
definitely one of the competing cities. So, but now having seen, now you said this is a standing protest, and having seen the standing protest and impromptu protest, you've been at ones in Atlanta. You've also, we can look up, you're all over the country, and you've just been involved in all of this. What's the difference between are you seeing a change that's what's the word I want to use? Or something sustainable. Are you
Yeah.
seeing things
Yeah.
that something's going to really be sustained from this?
I believe so. I believe that we're in a spiritual awakening. There's a lot of,
Mm-hmm.
even after the 2016 election, a lot of women started running for office. And so now with the way this pandemic has revealed so much, the way that the things that are happening, like here in Georgia, Ahmaud Arbery, in Kentucky,
Mm-hmm.
Breonna Taylor, and then of course Minnesota with George Floyd, and countless of others, people are beginning to stand up and say, enough is enough. We're done dying. And I
Mm-hmm.
believe that we're coming together we have a whole lot of work to do to heal this country. But I believe that it can happen. And the only way it's going to happen is if we come together and stand in solidarity with one another.
Hmm. Now, when you say a number of women decided to run for office, this is your second time on the ballot. The first time you ran for which position?
Lieutenant governor. The first time I ran for lieutenant in the 2017 2018 election. Um, and everybody's familiar with that. Stacey Abrams was running for governor. I was running for lieutenant
Mm-hmm.
governor. And we had a whole bunch of women running for office during that time. And basically, what I was gonna do was just continue to advocate for my issues. And then my team
Hmm.
put out a survey, and they were like, "We don't want you to go away. We need you on the front line." And the survey came back that I should run um, for Senate. The most votes that came back on where, because we wanted to hear from the people.
Mm-hmm.
I'm the people's candidate, and so we wanted to hear from the people as to what my next move would be. And I'm sorry, y'all, about the
Hmm.
sun. I hope y'all can see me
No,
okay.
that's fine.
Um, but
Yeah,
uh,
we can
but
see you great.
but yeah, so most people, the most votes were for Senate, because we really do need
Hmm.
it in District 30, which is Carroll, Douglas, and Paulden. We really need representation, especially representation that looks like us. We've had an absent leader since 2012, and this district wasn't prepared for the pandemic and a lot of things that's happening. And so they said we need representation, and we need somebody that's gonna hold people feet to the uh, people feet to the fire and speak truth to power. And they chose me. So
Hmm.
hopefully, with this runoff going on, that that August the 11th is the next election, and that I prevail, then I go against the old white guy Republican in the general. So
Were
I'm
you?
looking forward
Let
to
me
it.
ask you though. Were you shocked to see the results from the election?
This last election on June 9th,
Yeah, yeah, for
um,
the runoff. Were you shocked at all?
no, not really, because a lot of times when you have, especially three women, it was three women in my race,
Yeah,
and black women, and a lot
that's
of
amazing.
times when you have more than one woman in the race, they're gonna split the vote.
Mm-hmm.
And so basically
Hmm.
that's what happened. If I'm sorry, if it was, oh, can't close that. If it had maybe been two people, then I know I would have prevailed. But when you have three women in the race, most of the time, the vote is split, and then it creates a
Hmm.
runoff.
Hmm.
So
And
no,
you
I
rep you
wasn't shocked.
represent in so many. Yeah, I'm telling you, you represent in so many areas, and we can discuss so much. First of all, you are a veteran as well. Okay,
Yeah.
a mom, a wife, just so totally involved, a stakeholder in your community, and then of course continuing to run and represent. How do you do it all? Because everybody's trying to figure out, especially even in this pandemic. People, but seriously, because people wake up and they really literally don't know what the starting point is. They get a chance to see us, especially when we get different lenses on us. But what was the starting point for
with
you?
with prayer, and then also because I do advocate in so many different areas, I have to tell myself, Triana, you're only one person.
Mm-hmm.
You're only one
Hmm.
person. And because I carry the weight of the world on my shoulders, and a lot of things that I've been advocating for, in fact, all of the things I'm running on my platform, I've been advocating for these issues a very long time. And my husband said, well, what happens when when you start advocating? I said I'm not going to stop advocating until everything that I'm advocating for becomes law. This is the right thing to do
Mm-hmm.
by the people. We need to put the people back in we the people. So many bad bills that pass down at the state capitol. And so I have to stand the course. I have to stay out there advocating because the things that I advocate for is not law. So I have to
Mm-hmm.
advocate for those issues. And being the state senator, I'm able to do those things on the inside.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why
Yeah.
I need to be the next senator for District 30 because we got to change things. We got to get these laws in place, and that's what I always say. You want to change laws, you got to change the lawmakers.
Mhm. And it's one thing, and Angela, jump in if you haven't seen. It's one thing to be out marching and protesting, and you and I were talking earlier, and I was saying I don't think that people really relate. They want to change, the behavior of people. They want things to feel a certain way, but we need, with all this going on, it has to come down to changing laws. It
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
has to come down with changing the representation of people who are writing some of these laws if they're not going to change themselves. So do you see that people that are out there marching, do they have a correlation that this conversation has to then end up happening under the gold dome?
Right. Well, one of the things that I do is I always do a call to action. Everything that I do a call to action. Because not only we can go and rah rah, and things like that, but if there's no action behind it, then we're rah rahing for just to be rah rah,
Mm-hmm.
things like that. And so we have to do a call to action. For example, and one of the things that I this morning at the rallies, this afternoon, this evening, I'll talk about HB 838. That is a law. Well, it's not law yet, but it was passed in the House and it was passed in the Senate. And what that bill says is that a peace officer, okay, can sue you any event that he can sue you for damages if he is injured, if something happens to him while he is performing his job, that he can sue you, he could sue corporations, he could sue organizations, he could sue heads of organization. Like, I'm also, in addition to being a mother and a wife of a veteran and an advocate, I'm also the president of Georgia Now, National Organization for Women. And so if I'm out at a protest or if I organize a protest, then and if an officer is, say he springs an ankle, well, guess what? That bill, HB 838, says that he can sue me for damages. Yes.
Mm. And this is a bill that it's out there. All it has to do now is be signed. But here we are trying to get rights for ourselves against police officers, but yet something like this goes on through. How do we get that person who represents us? Like you're sitting back, like, okay, well, did you guys add anything to the bill? Is it anything for the people? Those are the things that get
Right.
overlooked.
Yeah,
That's
and
what happens
Right.
when you only protest and don't figure out what happens under the go down. Because now you're looking like, wait a minute. Out of all of this protesting, the person that gets the law is the police officer.
Right.
it,
And
yeah,
see
So
while
how do
we were
how do we how do we fix that?
and see while we were focused on the hate crime
the hate
bill,
crime. Yeah.
while we were focused on HB
Mm-hmm.
426, they snuck in
Mm-hmm.
HB 838. You see, and so that's why on my Facebook page it'll say "Let's take action together," and people can go to that and on my Facebook page and click, and it'll send an email to the governor for him to veto that bill. Because right now it's under bill review. It has not been signed by the governor. It's under bill review. And thank God for members of Georgia now, and people across this great state in sending emails to get it to bill review. Because it passed the House, it passed the Senate. But we got to get the governor to veto that bill. And so that's what I'm encouraging
Wow.
people to do, because while we were focused on the hate crime bill and celebrating,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
which we should,
Mm-hmm.
because we needed that, but they snuck in 838,
Well,
and it needs to be vetoed by the governor.
Wow.
and I think this is so significant, is that if you're just watching the news, right? If this is the only place that you're really getting your information for political information from, you're going to miss that, right? The only
Mm-hmm.
reason
Mm-hmm.
I even
Mm-hmm.
know about that, right, that I knew about this sneaky bill, right, was because I follow people in social media who are talking about how the laws get made and what is happening, and and you included, right, to say, hey, this is, look over here, right, they've got us looking over here. So I think this is
Right.
really, really critically important. I think a lot of people don't know how to engage the lawmaking
Mm-hmm.
process on the state and local level, and that's where this stuff's happening, right? This is where
Yeah.
we think we have this protection over here, and then you turn it over here, and I think the vast majority of people would say that's so stupid, that the organizer of a protest could be sued by a police officer because he sprained his ankle, right? But that's exactly how it will be used, right? We know this.
Yeah.
And so I think that
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I think that we're really in this space where we have to keep educating people, right? So if
Yeah.
you could
Right.
recommend
Right.
to concerned citizens, right, where should they be looking, right? Where should they be looking? So we know that we can follow your Facebook page, your Twitter, and you're keeping people alert. Are there other, like you talk about
Mm-hmm.
Georgia Now, right? Following organizations. Where should we be?
Right.
Who can we look to see, other than just the AJC or the local news?
Your state. I would say to everybody, follow your state rep. If you're in a Republican district, follow the Democratic reps, or other reps in surrounding
Mm-hmm.
counties. If you're in, like, Carroll County is a red county. We're hoping to make it a blue county with
Mm-hmm.
me, but it is a red county. So what you have to do, outside of election time, is follow, like in Douglas County, follow Kimberly Alexander, Donzella James, Serenia Carthen. Follow those people, and because they are updating their websites, they're
Mm-hmm.
updating people on the Facebook page. So I would say your representative, follow them on social media, get on their newsletter, things like that. Get in their call log when they're doing robocalls, because they will keep you updated. Outside of, like, different organizations like Georgia Now, we're always going to educate
Mm-hmm.
um, candidates like myself that love to be transparent. Educate. But outside of that, then I would say their representative, and if they have a Republican representative, I would say then follow, the next county over,
Mm-hmm.
like that. And that way you'll get the real deal on about what's going on down at the Georgia Dome, the Gold Dome. I said
Mm-hmm.
the Georgia Dome, the Gold Dome, and the state capitol. And then I would also encourage everybody to visit the state
Mm-hmm.
capitol throughout the year, from January 8th to maybe, well, normally it's like March, April, but this year, because of COVID-19, they went on to June. But I would say, visit the state
Mm-hmm.
capitol and see what's going on. Sign up for newsletters, and things like that, so you will be in the know.
Mm-hmm.
Because once I always say, when we know better, we do better.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you so much, Triana Arnold James, y'all. Listen, go to her page, go Google her, follow her. She's definitely keeping us posted. And I'm so glad to bridge the gap, because I think a lot of people are out protesting because of their frustration, and they don't realize that all these things. I also want to mention on your Facebook, when she's saying follow your representative, on your Facebook has already connected you with all your representation, from the president down to the local, or from the local up to the president. And so, just like you're scrolling your timeline, you have a timeline with just those things curated in it. And all
Mm-hmm.
you have to do is look over on your Facebook, if you're on your desktop or your mobile. You click the three lines and you see your civic. There's a civic timeline that Facebook has. That's why Mark Zuckerberg is being sought after to take action on what he is allowing on Facebook, because it
Right.
does impact the influence that we have. So Triana, thank you. Where are
Thank you
you headed for
so
the
much.
rest of the day? You still out, or what
Yep,
else should we know about?
I'll be in Carroll for the next couple of hours, and then I'm headed to. I was in Paulding this morning, and I'm in Carrollton. Then I'm head to Douglas, and then hopefully I'll be headed home after that. But I want to say I want to remind everybody I'm in the runoff, and early voting starts July 20th. Early voting July
Hmm.
20th, and then election day for the runoff is August the 11th. So we need to encourage people to go
Mm-hmm.
back out and vote. I know we are tired, but get back out and vote. I need your vote on August the 11th, so that I can be your next state senator. And to find out more about me, go to trianaforgeorgia.com. Triana, the number 4Georgia.com, and all social media is Triana for Georgia. So thank you, Yolanda. Thank you so much. Thank both of you so much for having me on this podcast. I really, really appreciate it.
And thank you for taking time out of your busy day. Like I said, we
Thank you.
try to keep tabs. You do an amazing job
Mm-hmm.
making us
Mm-hmm.
think beyond some of the things that are coming towards us, and keeping us involved. All right, be safe, and have a great day.
Will do. Thank you. Bye bye.
Thank you.
Bye bye. All right, y'all. Treat Arnold James, man, I tell you. And don't forget, guys, we are inviting you guys to come on with us. We're on Wednesday and we're on Sundays. And Angela, I think we have about another 20 minutes. Got to shout out Jean Ambrose. She was saying yes to 10 town hall meetings. Call them, follow all on social media. And then, of course, we had D. Lee Inspires on with us in the comments. And if you guys are watching, just say hello in the comments. You don't have to leave, too many comments, but that's the only really only way we can see until after the show. And then again, the conversation doesn't stop now with us and those we have on the show. We invite you to congregate in the comments, and we try to tag everybody so you can get to their pages and follow information. Again, we are on live today and probably going forward both on Facebook Watch as well as YouTube, so that you can watch on other platforms. This entire conversation also becomes a podcast immediately after. So if you want to do your riding and listening and so forth, or working and cleaning, ooh, it is Sunday. I didn't put anything in the oven. I gotta figure out dinner, man. We had such a good dinner yesterday, and we literally just had an amazing brunch. So I gotta figure out dinner. I see it's getting ready to be kind of an overcast out there. But Angela, here's something that I've been tossing around in my head. You had me watch, what was it?
Disclosure.
Discovery? What was it?
Disclosure.
Disclosure. You had me watch Disclosure. I did watch Disclosure. Even though TikTok is having this thing about watching the intro of this movie called Love. Yeah. You might want to be careful on that one. But
Okay.
you had me watch Disclosure. I'm not saying go watch it. But Disclosure, because we ended like one of the topics we talked about last week was the fact that it is gay pride, and Disclosure goes deeply into the history of advocating for transex. Is it transsexual?
It's
What is the
transgender.
word?
Transgender is
Transgender.
the American term, right? Transsexual is an old term. Some I think they still use it in UK, but here it's transgender. Yeah.
And I like transgender because I think one of the things that hampered the gay community or the gay movement, let's talk about movement, was the fact that sexual was
Mm-hmm.
added into it, and it allowed gender, talking about it from a gender perspective, and not that I'm not coming in on being any kind of expert. Apparently, there are some leaders in the movement that followed me. I retweeted something one day and ended up getting mentioned in thousands of tweets. Okay, but I did watch it, and just to be able to have a little bit more dialogue on it, because one of the things that I have often said, I feel like, and this is something I truly feel in my heart, I feel like the gay movement would have gone a little bit further. I feel like it was that civil rights movement was used to kind of cover up what was going on with America, and the gay movement. And because when I think about the gay movement, when I think about a lot that went on in America, I go back to World War II, because I think those who were in dealing with World War II, I feel like if we did not have World War II, this country would be in a very different place. Okay, I feel like we were on a trajectory to something, whether it was unification or what. I really feel like we were. I feel like even over the war, I feel like we were. But when we talk about how much control systems have had over us learning the history of all of these movements, and to this day, you think that people only know about the civil rights movement, right? And here we are again, Pride Month, but into all the conversation that focuses on Black Lives Matter, and yet you cannot deny the fact that 2020 is a pivot year, to borrow from Angela, a shift year. Um, if we weren't, if Black Lives Matter wasn't in the forefront, what do you think would have been the forefront of Pride Month 2020?
Well, this is the fifth anniversary of the legalization of gay marriage. So I think that there would have been probably a lot of commemoration around that. But I do think that transgender rights is sort of the next piece that's coming up under this sort of, gay
Mm-hmm.
liberation movement is what it was called. And I'm going to go back to what you said about triplets, right? So, and I'm going to say
Yeah,
that's
I'm trying to figure
actually
out the triplets.
there's actually quadruplets, and there's one poor little quadruplet
I
that
knew
got.
you were going to say that. When I tell you, every time I would say the word triplet, I said Angela's going to make it quadruplet because she's going to know of this other one. Because I'm thinking there has to be another one. Is it women?
So I have civil
What do you
rights.
what makes
Let's see. What are your
Okay?
triplets? What are your triplets? And I'll tell you
Well,
mine.
definitely I was going to say I'm only going to use Black Lives Matter because I think that's just going to be the new way of
Mm-hmm.
talking about the civil rights movement. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
because now we're moving away from just having our civil rights to
Mm-hmm.
it's about dignity, humanity, and so forth, and it's going to be more financial than it has ever been. And then of course I want to say gay rights, and when I say triplets, I almost want to say women, but then for some reason I want to bring Native Americans back
Mm-hmm.
into the fold of things. Indigenous people.
Right.
I saw some of that's playing loudly
Mm-hmm.
on TikTok.
Right.
TikTok being the platform of the day. But then I kept thinking I want to say women, but then having listened to the half of the Toni Morrison episode,
Yeah. Yeah.
she talked a lot about the white gays, but she
Yep.
also talked a lot about white males. And that's something that I have talked about. One of the reasons for blogging is simply
Mm-hmm.
because media and everything in the world is for white men, and then everything else falls up under them. So I'm interested to know: is it women? Is it indigenous people?
Mm-hmm.
Um, I don't know. I don't. This is the one time I cannot forecast where you're about to take us
Well,
on the
and look, I'm
quadruplet.
like, because I think there's stuff in here that I hadn't thought of too. I want to look back to 1970, right? You keep going back to 1970. You've got me
50
thinking about
years ago.
1970, right? And so
Mm-hmm.
what were the triplets / quadruplets of the 70s, right? So really the civil rights
Oh, wow.
movement was the first, right? But we know we had within the civil rights movement, right? Women, we had, like, think about James Baldwin, Bayard Rustin. There were a lot of gay people in the civil rights movement that were basically told, gonna have to wait. So we get to the 70s.
Got to pick one. Yeah.
Right. Got to pick an identity, right? We get to the 70s and we did have triplets and actually quadruplets.
Mm-hmm.
Boy, I'm gonna have us having septuplets at this point. So you have women's liberation, right? Gay liberation.
Mm-hmm.
Disability rights. There was a huge disability rights movement going on. I think
Mm-hmm.
that's the one that's
Mm-hmm.
forgotten. And then the war, anti-war. So the peace movement. So these were sort of those were the quadruplets
the
that I'm going to say.
anti-war.
Yeah.
I see, in my mind, the whole war thing is the one thing that was really uniting everybody.
Was the umbrella
there
under
were
which,
those who didn't go to war that were declaring disabilities,
right?
Which them declaring disabilities overshadowed those who actually had disabilities.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like the war was the uniting factor,
Mm-hmm.
and the only way to get people from uniting over the war was to pick and say, if you don't be careful, this group is going to get stronger and begin to marginalize you. That's the one thing that America has been fighting forever: is don't let women rise up. And remember, I talked about the 10X guy telling white men, listen, stop worrying about being afraid or this fear of somebody coming along beside you, or because you spend too much time on that. So, but white men have been told, don't let women rise up too much, they can overtake you. Don't let blacks rise up too much, they can overtake you. Don't let of course, disability, and then of course, what was the other one? The gay rights, right? Gay. And I love the fact that you are saying liberation. Let me make sure we're good here. I love that language more so than the rights and so forth, because when you even start thinking about rights and all of that, it's again, you forced to choose an issue, forced to choose an identity, and if people had been able to be gay and or black and or if and both, if we had the opportunity to be that, like can I be black and woman? It's like, no, you got to pick one. I also watched Rachel Dolezal's.
I did not see that.
Yeah, gotta watch that one too.
Well, I'll have to. I'll have to.
You have to. You have to watch. You have to watch Rachel too. And not even if you don't want to watch for Rachel, you have to watch for the language and how she. I mean, I was leaning in like from hello, like, oh, okay, I get it. And now one, because the story is actually told. The wisdom of the entire thing actually comes from her son, who is a black male. And I mean, and he says so many profound things. One, of course, in defense of his mom, but getting us to understand, like, that's his mother. That's his mother. And then to her work and the work that she did because of how she identified. I mean, you can't, there's so much of it you cannot deny. And again, it comes back to once you know a person's story, and that's what liberation is all about. So now go back, because I interrupted you on your list.
I just to touch on Rachel Dolezal, I will say there's a piece of me that totally understands where she came from, because as a teenager, as a young adult, as I really became, my eyes were open to white privilege and to systemic racism. If I could have checked out of the white race, if I could have just been like, I'm like, y'all losers, right? I'd have done it, right? Because I'm like, this is the loserous race. One of my brothers is like, he says, white people are just like, we're just like this is the worst race, right? So it's like, my family came from an experience where we basically ended up saying white people suck, right? This is what I get in trouble on Facebook for, right? White people are the
You're
worst.
gonna have to like you. I'm
And
not
get
gonna. I'm not that I'm gonna advocate for white people,
yeah,
but you got to at
but
least give us one thing that made you question the privilege. What was?
but
And you don't have to dive into it, but we because we know. But I mean, but what is it that made you like see like wait a minute? What do you mean this is just us, just for us?
mhm.
Privilege, you know.
Right. Well, I mean, it came about from basically having close friends, being in
Mm-hmm.
having close friends who are black, being in black spaces, you know, being one of the few white people in black spaces. It really opened my eyes to again how systems worked. I mean, I remember the first time
Right.
I got pulled, you know, we got pulled over was my brother and I with a friend with some friends of ours in Detroit who are also brother and sister, and they lived in our neighborhood. They're black, we're white. We got pulled over, um, you know, like literally 100 feet from our front door. But
Mm-hmm.
our black male friend was driving, right? And we had just come from seeing the movie Soul Man, which is a problematic film. Yes, yes. Uh, and so we just laughed, right? We screamed about this, and he got pulled over for having a burnt out license plate light, right? And it's like that was
Mm.
like one of the I was about 19 at that point, and I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I could drive up and down this street all night with burnout lights, and the cops aren't going to stop me other than to say, miss, do you need help getting home? Right.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That was one incident and that I was directly involved in. That was like, yeah, this is there's some there this is discrimination. There's discrimination built into it. And then
Mm-hmm.
I was well, we'll
I
have a
know.
discussion about this another
That's.
time. But
We'll
I
just say that
saw I
that's
was
another
up, you
episode.
know, but I was also up close and personal with white flight, right? And so this is how I ended up in some predominantly black spaces because I was on. We would move a lot. We would move into the sort of the, you know, we were moving into communities where black families were moving in and white families were moving out. So also that experience made me just think white people suck. But I didn't ever say I'm going to pretend like I'm a black person because I have to own my piece of that white privilege, right? But there was a point when I was 19 or 20, if I thought I could have done it, I might have considered it. So I'm just saying, Rachel, but I don't know that I would go try to be the head of my local NAACP. But anyway, let's go back.
Which, by the way, NAACP membership is off the chain right now across the board,
And
and not by black people. Let me
it's
just
open
say
to
that.
white people. I
That's
mean,
one
this,
of the.
I think,
Yeah,
yeah, I think
that's.
that's,
I think
yeah,
it's a guilt. I'm gonna label it a guilt thing.
yeah.
But because people are trying to figure out, okay, if I want to know, where do I
Where do I
go? And they
go?
know
Yeah.
they know to go to NAACP,
But
which actually didn't start out. It started out diverse. It just
yeah,
ended up one thing.
yeah.
But
But
no,
let's
go
go back
back. Okay, again,
to our
the
quadruplets.
triplets,
Right,
quadruplets,
right.
and you
My
said
giant hands.
septuplets.
So we've got
Okay.
Black Lives Matter. Yes. We've got
Mm-hmm.
gay liberation. So let's say black liberation. We got gay liberation. I think with the focus on trans rights, right? This is one of the big things. And then also there's rights about HIV um, in rural communities for
Mm-hmm.
rural gay men. This is particularly black men, and then housing rights for poor gay people. These are the big issues.
Mm-hmm.
And so, if you want to know if you know these issues related to gayness are still issues, we just had a Supreme Court. You know, we just had the Supreme Court rule on whether or not you could be fired for being gay. I mean, so clearly
Mm-hmm.
we still have a gay
Mm-hmm.
liberation movement and issues. So we got black liberation, gay liberation. I think you're exactly right. What's up and coming is now we're starting to pay attention to indigenous peoples, to Native Americans, and you know, boy, talk about owing a debt, right? And this is where we're starting to see BIPOC, right? Black Indigenous People of Color. This is the little BI. It looks like BIPOC, right? Or
I saw that. I
and
saw
so this
that
is yeah.
somewhere.
And a lot of people think BI stands for like bisexual, but it's like no, it's Black, Indigenous, and then people of color. So BIPOC. We're starting to see that language working in where we're trying to include Indigenous people sort of but they're going to, they deserve their own movement. And we saw this with, the water rights fights, and people were starting to pay attention. And then we ended up with the election, and attention got pulled away from that. But I do think we're going to see that. Right. And then disability rights. Right. So I think we're coming back around to
You
disability
don't see
rights.
women's.
I
What
do,
about
and
women's
so
liberation?
women would basically.
That's why you said
right. So actually, there's
5.
probably 5, right? And actually, the one
Okay.
that I wasn't thinking about was Indigenous peoples, and
Uh-huh.
I'm like, that is coming. That's definitely, and it's happening right now. So that was the one that I was sort of missing. But I
Because you know what?
because go ahead.
I've been questioning. And it came from watching an older Western with Ruby Dee, not Billy Dee, Sidney Poitier, and I'm gonna say the two of them is the third, and I didn't get it. And in this movie, this Western movie that they were in, they had a conversation about an alliance, building an alliance with
Mm-hmm.
Indigenous people, and the conversation didn't go well.
Mm-hmm.
So I question that. But it's when you talk about Black Indigenous people of color, that coming out of this, it's like people, everybody now wants to acknowledge, if it's almost like, okay, well, if Black Lives Matter is really going to be the major shift of this thing, then we all now got to go back and identify our relationship with Black, right? So, but I always wondered why there wasn't, and I don't know that there was. It just feels like there wasn't because it wasn't visible. It wasn't something that we could see, and that is the real true relationship with Black people and Native Americans,
Mm-hmm.
Indigenous Native Americans, and Native
Yeah,
Americans,
Native
so that
Americans.
people can clearly understand. It's hard to follow the history on that and the relationship, especially the time span when all you have is, pretty much TV. It's hard because
And
I'm wondering, like, man, if they had just really, really worked together,
yeah,
you know,
well, and
but they were
that
able to conquer them.
no, absolutely. And the
Go ahead.
effort was, and that was a fear, that was a big fear. Right. And this is interesting that it's Andrew Jackson, who Trump worships, right, is the one who was basically like, we're going to exterminate the Native American population, right? We're going to exterminate the
Hmm.
Indian population. And, and moved, it cleared the East Coast, right? Moved, did the Trail of Tears, moved the Cherokee and the Creek out of here. And the lands that we're on right now, right? We're Native
Hmm.
American land.
Hmm.
Every bit of America was a Native American land. But we're this part of North Georgia would have been under either Cherokee, I think, or Creek control. And anybody who knows can
And that's
please correct
that's
me.
the oddest part, because when you explore Alabama at
Mm-hmm.
all, if you want to go and enjoy any of that nature wise, or Georgia nature
Mm-hmm.
wise, it's known for its racist history, but it's named for indigenous people, Native Americans. So you can't help but to scratch your
Well,
head when
and
you hear this stuff.
right, and in the category of white people are the worst. Think about this. What do we always say is that white people want to take culture, but they don't want to take the people of the culture. So white people want to take Black culture, but they don't want Black people, right? Look at what we've done with Native Americans. Everything around
Exactly.
us is basically the Chattahoochee River, right? We will take the names, we will take even the spirituality, but we don't want to take the people. So this is white supremacy, right?
Hmm.
This is imperialism. This is colonialism. Is that you take the culture, but you erase the people. So
It's
part of
American.
it is. It's America, and
It's
it's
American.
Europe.
Yeah.
It's England.
Hmm.
It's the
Hmm.
conquering of the British Empire. Really
Hmm.
is this
Yeah.
erasure.
Anywhere that it's any
Yeah,
erasure. It's that
yeah,
construct of
and
erasing.
and
We want it, but we don't
yeah,
want it at the same time. We don't want it with you.
yeah.
And even when we talk about it, even if after we name those 5 groups, one of the reasons that we can name those 5 groups, because each one of those groups have been convinced in some way that fighting for their own liberation needs to be done separately,
Mm-hmm.
right? It needs to be done separately, or you won't get it. The fact that we are because from day one, when the Black Lives Matter started to rise up again, mind you, albeit, because we're avenging death, we don't want to forget that. But then I kept saying, man, this is overshadowing, this other
Mm-hmm.
liberation that was about to happen. And I kept saying, we've been here before. We've been here before where these other liberation movements
Mm-hmm.
were going on. There are marches that were happening. There, things that were planned on Washington and all around the country that, oh, let's just take that lens and let's just put it right over here.
Mm-hmm.
Which, for me, I'm always looking to see, well, who's manipulating who. But that's why I question so much of all of this stuff going on, because if it's all about just manipulating one over the other, that means you're not going to see any results.
Well,
You
but
know.
this is where I think that social media and sort of this and YouTube and all of these platforms that are open to people are really breaking through. It's like this thing that the tighter they squeeze, the more slips through the fingers. Is that there is
Mm-hmm.
this belief that we as Americans can't multitask, meaning that we can't pay attention to more than one thing at one time. And we do sort of have a hard time paying attention to more than one thing at one time, but we can, right?
Mm-hmm.
We can.
Mm-hmm.
Let's remind ourselves that we can. And so I there's a country singer that I follow that my sister got me into, and his name's Orville Peck, and he wears a mask, he wears this fringe mask, there's a whole thing. But he's a gay man, he's a gay country singer, and he sings in a very classic Johnny Cash, old style song.
Mm-hmm.
But he's openly gay. He's up and coming, right? And he keeps his real identity secret, but it would appear to be from what you can suss out from his story is that he was raised in South Africa, and he put up some pictures of his grandparents, and they look like they would have been people of color. So he's got some diversity there. What it is, he's not being very open with. So he's been a vocal advocate for gay rights, as you can imagine, right? As a gay country singer, right?
Mm. She'll be right back, y'all. I imagine that is her alarm knocking her
Guys,
offline,
my alarm
and
just went off,
here
so
she
it's
comes.
time. It's
That's what I
time.
was
Yep,
about to
here I
say.
am.
Yeah,
That
we
was our
went a
alarm.
little bit over.
We're over, but I'll finish this. But it's interesting to me. He's an
Mm-hmm.
advocate for gay rights. As soon as Black Lives Matter started, he had an album coming back. He says, I'm going to hold my album back a month. Let's be a part of this. And then he was part of a movement that was a Native American movement, right? An indigenous people's
Mm.
fundraiser around the solstice. And he was performing, virtually. He performed for Pride. He performed for this, virtual performance. And then he performed for this Native American solstice celebration to raise money, because he's like, if I'm going to be in
Mm.
the cowboy world, I've got to acknowledge the Native American piece of this, right? And so I thought, this is very interesting. Here's a person who clearly is multitasking not only their own identity, but groups that they're supporting. So I really feel like, this is a young person, and he's got lots of young people that follow him. I feel like we're to the point now that we can do that, right? And that we don't have to tell movements, okay, you're going to have to wait because we can only pay attention over here. I think if part of this ability to have 15 tabs open on your browser is giving our mind 15 tabs, right? We can follow each one. And I think again, this is where we have to control our engagement and make sure that we're following people like Triana to know what's happening locally,
Mm-hmm.
make sure that we're not
Mm-hmm.
getting caught up in too much, like you say, of the media apartheid, of the rhetoric, of the whatever outrage speak, and actually look and see, well, what are the issues and what's happening right now that can make permanent change. And this idea of, if you change a law, that's huge.
Mm-hmm.
That's really what's going to
Mm-hmm.
happen. So anyway, like I say, my alarm just went off to indicate we are over time, so I will
Right.
but definitely on Wednesday, let's talk about that Toni Morrison piece.
Yeah.
Because
It's deep.
I got about 30
It's
minutes
deep.
in, and I'm like, all of this, like you say, all these movements, 3, 4, 5, whatever, they're
Mm-hmm.
all about pushing back against the white gaze and the white male gaze.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like everything,
Right.
and it's like, but I think
And and
what we're seeing is Toni Morrison set the standard, where she said, I'm not writing for them. I'm not writing for white people. I'm
Mhm.
not writing for white men,
Mhm.
right? And it's now
Mhm.
these movements are saying we're not doing these movements for white people, right? We're doing
Mhm.
these movements for ourselves. And we're going to talk to
Yeah.
our we're going to speak in our we're going to speak to our own, right? And then we will
Mhm.
organize
Mhm.
instead of trying to placate the white gaze. And that's what Toni Morrison did. And
Mhm.
I was like, just watching, I was like, oh my God, this is so on point for right
It's
now.
good. But and the thing about it is, and again, I'm not here to take the stinger off of any of it, but the reality is all media, it has one audience, and that is the gaze of
Yeah.
white men,
Yep.
and everything falls under that. And I'm not saying that because it's how I feel. I'm saying that because I spent 20 years in publishing,
Mm-hmm.
and when you want to go cover an event, the first thing they want to know is, okay, well, how many white men are going to see it? How many
Yep.
white men read your blog? And then if it's not white men, you then have to identify who does. And so, I mean, that's the nature of media. And audiences don't know that, don't understand that, but now you do. But one piece I want you to pay particular attention to that beyond Toni Morrison, because I'm going to tell you, I have never, ever, ever been able to get through a Toni Morrison book. Okay. Never, ever. Okay. Let's not even talk about that movie, Beloved. But
Yeah.
what I loved was Sonia Sanchez says,
Yes.
you have to come back every 10 years.
Yes.
And when you're ready to reimagine, we're
Mm-hmm.
at a point in 2020 here, y'all, where we are, and white men, y'all included, we're ready to
Mm-hmm.
reimagine something else. That's where we are. I could probably go and read the hell out of some Toni Morrison right
Mm-hmm.
now because I'm so primed to
Mm-hmm.
reimagine something else. Because when you pick it up, anybody's work, whether you go to read something from Dryer Buzz or watch a Leading Women episode, you might not be at a point to reimagine something different. 75%, okay, almost 80% of Americans are ready to reimagine. That's why they're out there saying Black Lives Matter.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want you to say Black Lives Matter if you can't say transgender matters, if you
Mm-hmm.
can't say indigenous people matter. I'm that person. And people are like, well, no, wait, let's get ready to reimagine something else. And you might be in that 26% that don't want to reimagine anything else. And that's fine. Talk to me in another 15, 15
Mm-hmm.
years as Sonia Sanchez. Man, when Sonia Sanchez begins to speak, it's like a melody,
Oh, it is.
you know? Oh my God. So wait till, and they got her dispersed throughout,
Yes,
right?
she's.
So, but the
Oh,
thing
yeah.
about it is, find the voice that you are willing to listen to and see if they're saying something. Because that was a time I couldn't understand Sonia Sanchez, Angela
Mm-hmm.
Davis, all these
Mm-hmm.
people. And then but you keep going. As long as you're
Mm-hmm.
willing to, put it down, but as long as you're willing to go back to it. That's what
Yep.
we want with this. Be able to be willing to go back to it, be willing to reimagine. And guess what happens? If you're not ready now, you might get left behind a little bit because there's still a lot that I want to learn. But as long as you're willing to come back to it at some point or another, I'm
Mm-hmm.
telling you, I'm just amazed. Like I said, it was a good week. I had a good week.
That's
Okay.
so great. Celebrate that.
No, and there's no guarantee on what mood I may be in on Wednesdays. But Angela's got to go. She's got to get back into caregiving. I've got to go and figure out what's in this fridge for us to have for dinner. I got to turn this kitchen back over to family for a Sunday dinner. I need to find out because I think my dad's kind of getting used to stopping by. So I need to see if he's
Oh,
planning on
good.
stopping by because he's usually out. There's a flea market that he works where actually if you caught up with him today, you probably caught up and saw that he is selling some soap. I don't know if I showed you guys this one. This is the new creation. I didn't actually get to do any new soaps this week because we're tracking down packages.
Mm.
Okay, can we please get our packaging systems back to normal? Man, people are ordering so much stuff, and how
Mm-hmm.
many? I hate to even ask how many packages you got this
Oh
week
my
because you
gosh.
still full on
Everything
delivery
is
everything,
coming.
right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, everything is delivery. And so I feel so bad at all these
Are
cardboard
you still
boxes.
doing the food box? Are you still doing the produce and the
I'm doing it
chicken?
about I'm doing the chicken. Yes, I'm getting the chicken every couple of weeks, and I'm doing a produce box about once a month because they're so big I can't go through them, so I'm giving them to my
Yeah.
neighbors and whatever. But yeah, no, I'm
Mm-hmm.
even doing, like, say, produce and meat delivery, and no, and
Mm-hmm.
so I'm like, yeah, I mean, I just have so much cardboard, I feel terrible. And my little local, or
I
we have,
know.
I
What do
don't
you
have
do?
good,
What do you do with that?
you have to
Oh my
take
God.
it to a
I put a
recycling
box
center.
by the door earlier.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
it's
put
like,
a box by the door
yeah,
earlier. Somebody
and
asked me about Georgia peaches.
it's supposed to be a good
Somebody
year
asked
for
me,
them.
said, I heard. So
I heard
I'm
it's
gonna
supposed to
I'm
be
gonna
really
venture
good.
out
Isn't
this
this?
week.
No, this should be time for peaches. I need this. Good time to get another
Yeah, it
produce
is.
box.
It is.
Yeah, because I mean,
I think I'm
yeah,
going
it's
to
season.
venture out. I'm going to do peach lemonade and I'm going to do a peach cobbler.
Mm.
Because the place I go, they usually have the Georgia peaches right next to the South Carolina peaches.
Uh-huh.
And, it's sometimes Georgia, I have to reach up across the border. But
Well,
apparently the Georgia ones are supposed to be
it's
really
supposed to be a
good.
good year, but I
I'm
do
I'm
think
I'm hankering for,
South
yeah.
Carolina is actually
All
the
right.
real peach capital. Yep. All right. Well,
I know that you said that kind of under your breath. Guys, listen, we do hope you enjoyed this episode of Leading Women Weekly. Like I said, we do come to you twice on Wednesdays because one week is so much that can go on in a week. So we're going to give you a couple of days for you to digest all that we talked about. I want to shout out again Triana Arnold James.
yes.
Man, if you follow her, she will have you going all around this state. One thing I will say, she loves the state of Georgia. She is on the ballot going back into a runoff to become a Georgia senator. That's going to be absolutely awesome. And to know that I have followed her from like you go like, who is this woman? She's
Yeah.
everywhere,
Yeah.
and she is one of those people that is everywhere. But listen, you can be doing the same thing too. Find your issues and get out there and
Mm-hmm.
become a voice in those issues. And then guess what? We'll be inviting you on. I think I went to go get the email leading women podcast at gmail.com. Leading women podcast at gmail.com. We want to bring you guys on. We are setting up our different segments. We've got 15-minute segments available for you to come on and chit chat with us and the rest of the world. Like I said, the minute I hit the stop button, it also becomes a podcast. Angela Stalkup is her name over there. It's her name as well
Mm-hmm.
as her website, angelastalkup.com. I'm Yolanda. Most people know me as Dryerbuzz. You can find me at dryerbuzz.com. And of course, all of this is powered by shopdryerbuzz.com. So definitely follow us and check out what we have going on. I come to you live from my kitchen. Angela comes to you live from her home. And we'll see you guys next Wednesday. All right. Angela, you stay right there and I'll tell everybody bye.